So hello everybody and welcome to the November Garment Makers live question and answer session, the penultimate session of the year. And David was counting me in there and he couldn't actually work out how to hold up 5 fingers, so I was just laughing, saying at least he didn't give me an unpleasant finger there. He was not being rude to me there. So we hope you are all well. We've already read that some of you are in cold places and some of you are in super cold places, and so yeah, we're going through a bit of a chill here, but David will actually mention that. But just before I pass over to David, I did take a delivery this morning of some tulip bulbs, and the guy that delivered them, I'm not sure where he was from, but it was somewhere warmer than here because he was wearing a balaclava. I mean, literally, I could just see his eyes. He had gloves on. He was absolutely wrapped up. And you know how people kind of sink into themselves when they're really cold? I did wonder whether the heating on his van had broken. Anyway, the heating is working in here, so that is a very good thing. And David is going to welcome you, and then we are going to say hi to Peter.
Hi everybody. Yeah, we were chuckling at the comments earlier on. Susan Jenkins, well done. You were first, as you very regularly have been. And you were saying -5 degrees in snowy Smalley in Derbyshire, and we thought that was very cold. As did Sarah Runnacles, who was also cold, and Cilla Moncrief. But Joanne Tissington, you win the prize, -17 in Grand Prairie, Alberta, Canada. So yes, we're all feeling positively balmy now, having heard how cold it is with you. Hopefully you can hear us all, you can hear us loud and clear, and we can continue with the questions and with the prize draw.
So Peter, would you like to come in and say hello to everybody? So Peter and I now have to fight for the mirror to get ready. Like, Peter gets changed. Yeah. So how are you, Peter?
I'm very well.
Have you got any news to share? Have you got any news to share with our lovely members?
No, not really.
Nothing. Nothing exciting happening.
Might have cracked the plumbing problem, but
okay, so we'll wait for next time to hear that, shall we? Well, I'll just give you this, but we're not ready yet because I haven't explained what we are giving away this month. Now then, you will remember 2 or 3 months back we did a peg bag class, and I had found some very nice fabric to make my peg bag. It was originally for the Festival of Quilts booth, the stand that we had in the summer at the big quilt festival, and I got it from a local shop, and then it completely disappeared, but I had really loved it. And then I happened to be in another town, Scarborough, a seaside town that has the same department store, Boys, for those of you who know, and they happen to have it. So I have got sufficient fabric for a peg bag for 2 people, but not just that. I've almost put a kit together, which is unheard of. I have bought the same style of coat hanger that I used in the class, and then there is a piece of steamer seam which is going to be used for the lettering, and a piece of contrasting fabric to make the lettering with. So it might be even better, because if you win this prize and you haven't already bought the peg bag class, we are not going to leave you in the lurch with just the stuff and no knowledge of what to do with it, or no pattern. We will also gift you the peg bag class as well, and you have plenty of time to make at least one, if not several, before Christmas for Christmas gifts. And we already think that Sarah Runnacles made at least 6, and if she's on, she will let us know. So everybody she knows, including probably her husband, her son and her daughter, will be getting a new peg bag. So Peter, please can you draw 2 numbers out? No, it doesn't. Yeah, Peter already now knows what he's getting for Christmas. Yeah, he's very keen on doing the laundry, aren't you, Peter? Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, actually, yeah, there's a thought, isn't there? David hasn't got one, have you, David? No.
Right,
yeah, David,
I've got 2.
Thank you. So don't need to do anything if it's the first time you've watched us. Just need to be our paid up member to be in the draw, and we will let you know at the end who those lucky winners are. And please make sure, if you win, that you do claim your prize. Okay, back to you, David.
Okay, and we've also said if you haven't got the peg bag class and it's your name that's drawn out, we will give you the peg bag class to go along with that. So that is a bonus if you haven't already got it. Just a couple of other people, lots of people in cold places. Jennifer Clifford wins the prize, as she has done on many occasions, for the earliest start. She is watching from New Zealand, so well done, Jennifer. Good morning to you. And then Jill Buckley from Rochdale has her wood burner on and the wine already. So I think we're going to do it from your kitchen next time, or wherever it is that you are, Jill. That sounds really good. Okay, so I'm going to skip question 1 for now. I'll come back to that in a second. The first question we're going to do is from Pam Larson, and Pam says, I have a couple of questions for you. What are the consideration thoughts re buttonholes? Should they be placed vertically or horizontally on a shirt, jacket, coat fronts? And then a second question, Pam notices that you tend to place pins alongside the seam instead of across the seam when pinning fabrics together. Is there any reason why you pin it long ways rather than sideways on? So that's a long ways sideways question, Philippa.
Yeah, are you trying to put me on the spot there, Pam? Actually, both the questions are about directions, aren't they? Yeah. So yeah, there's a definite theme going on there. Now then, the theory is, and this is particularly important for women because we tend to strain the front of our garments perhaps a little bit more than men. Well, then maybe not if the man's got a little bit of a tummy. So, but anyway, if there is a placket on a shirt or a dress or any garment, then really the buttonholes should go down. And I'm actually going to illustrate this later on with one of the other questions. So they should go down because they need to sit in the middle of the placket. If they go horizontally, the button isn't going to be in the middle of the placket because there's a limit to the width of the placket, and so the button tends to end up being closer to the opening edge than it really should be. But quite often you do see buttonholes going horizontally in plackets because it's actually quicker, easier and cheaper to put them in under the buttonhole machine with the buttonhole. The front of the garment is here and you feed it in that way, and so it will run horizontally. So with a placket they should go vertically, but any other type of garment, particularly women's garments, they should go horizontally because the button and buttonhole will take the kind of strain of movement much more effectively and not pop open if the buttonhole is horizontal, because the button will move to the start of the buttonhole and it'll kind of lock and stay there, won't it? Okay, so that is the reason why. And particularly with women's clothing, don't just stick slavishly to the position that the buttonhole is marked. You should have really start from the kind of bust point so that one of your buttons is absolutely at the bust point, because that's where the kind of biggest measurement is generally, and then you should work up and down from that. Now then, if you have horizontal buttons and they do tend to pop open, you can make your buttonhole so that it's a very snug fit to the actual button that you are going to put on, so that yes, you can get the button through the buttonhole, but it's going to hold much more securely than if your buttonhole is a little bit on the long side. And also the place where you sew your button with a vertical buttonhole in a placket can make a difference. So if you don't sew the button smack in the middle of the buttonhole, but you sew it either towards the top or the bottom, then it will stay in place more effectively. So you've got more information there than you thought you were going to get. We've got plenty of questions, but we haven't got tons of questions. And David was saying, do you think we've got enough? And then he said, yeah, you'll be able to fill it out, won't you, Philippa? So I'm just proving him right there. Okay, and then the second part of the question, I wonder that if we went through a whole range of classes that I would would be pinning seams in different ways according to what I was doing, how I felt on the day, how frosty it was, who knows. But quite often I do pin at right angles to the seam with the pin head on the right hand side, because then it's easy to take the pins out as I go. Likewise, it is easy to take the pins out that way. So do think about the direction of the pins, but I think it also depends on the actual shape, what I'm pinning. Am I putting a sleeve in? Am I doing a crotch seam? Lots of variations, because sometimes when you are holding the garment and kind of pinning it together, it just seems easier to put the pins in one direction for some things and in another direction for other things. So I wouldn't say that there are any hard and fast rules, but what I would say to you is just think about how you're going to be removing those pins. If you are left-handed, then having the pin head to the left rather than right makes more sense, doesn't it? So think about just what works for you and what is going to hold the garment pieces together the most effectively for the time that you need them pinned.
Just to follow up on that, these buttonholes are vertical, and then the last one.
Yes, and so that is quite interesting, and I think that is a thing.
Just repeat the question.
I will. Yes, this is a thing that has happened relatively recently, I think. Although having said that, I'm just going to. When my grandfather died when I was about 15, I inherited a lot of his old granddad shirts, which had the removable collar, and I wore them as nighties, and they were quite fashionable at the time. What Peter just said is on the placket of his shirt that most of the buttonholes, if you want to, most of the buttonholes go down because it's got a plastic, but the last buttonhole goes across horizontally, and that will stay fastened. Now I think that is particularly useful for men with a big tummy where there's a lot of strain there, and usually with men's shirts, not always, if it's a casual shirt, not the case, but if it's a more tailored shirt that's going to be tucked in, that's never going to be seen, is it? So, and well, just one more thing on that. I don't know why, but one of my grandmas used to say, you can always trust a man who tucks his shirt into his underpants. Yeah, I'd be wary of a man that does that. Don't ever do it, Peter.
How would she know?
I don't know, it's just one of her little sayings.
Yeah, my granny never said that, I have to say. Okay.
Not to you anyway.
Not to me, no, not in my hearing. Okay, thank you for that. Next question is from Annie Bauer. And Annie has a very short question. She says, the best advice for learning how to put zips in, please.
Okay, watch my glasses. I'm sorry, I'm being very flippant there. There is no one way of putting a zip in. There are a myriad of ways, and there are many different types of zips, and we cover various things in a range of classes because I am choosing the most appropriate method to the particular garment that we are working on. So, for example, in the shift dress class, there is a centre back zipper, which is quite a long zipper, and I show you how to put an invisible zipper into that. So it's really discreet and really neat, and we know our members had the greatest success with that, and that it transformed sewing an invisible zipper into a garment for many of them. So that's really useful in dresses, but you can also use it in skirts, really good for either side seams or back seam zippers on skirts. It is also useful for lighter weight trousers. So in trousers you can put a zipper in the side seam and also in the back seam. I have a pair of trousers that has a zipper in the centre back, and it's actually really comfortable. So that is the first one. We then move on to the A-line skirt class, and that's a woolen fabric, a little bit thicker, and in that one I show you how to do a lapped zipper. So one side of the zipper is covered with a folded lap of fabric. The other side of the zipper, the opening, the fabric just sits up to the teeth. So there's two variations. Again, that's very useful for all kinds of garments. We do a fly zipper, a really great fly front zipper in the trouser class and also in the jeans class. And then we also have invisible zippers in the seam in our inseam pocket class. So there are many different types of applications. Those are the main ones, and they are illustrated in those classes. So you can always find a great way of putting a zipper in for the appropriate type of zip and zipper for the garment you are making. So do keep revisiting those classes in your library.
Okay, and Annie, I checked, and you have got those classes in your library, and some of them you haven't watched. So there's hours of really good instruction in those classes where Philippa goes into fine detail and not only tells you how to do it, she then shows you with a close-up camera. So very, very well worth watching those if you want to understand zips. Okay, I'm going to go back to when we do the live on a Tuesday night, we talk about quilting questions, and we also talked about our latest class, which is a lampshade class. And I think the item which has caused the most not controversy, the most discussion was when we started talking about using gin bottles for the bases for lamps. So we'll tell you about our latest class, which is a lampshade class. But Sarah Runicles has sent in a picture which I've got teed up, and that she says she is all ready for the lampshade class, and she has obviously drilled a hole. And Philippa would be very interested to know how you drilled that hole. I suspect it's either a tile drill or a masonry drill, but how you managed to drill the hole to get the cable in. But Philippa, tell us a bit about the lampshade class while we're on this subject.
Yeah, so forgive me if you already heard this in Tuesday's class, but we are editing our lampshade class at the moment. I've spent all day on it today and the other day as well. I think that it's a really lovely little class actually. It's about 3 and how many minutes? 3 hours and
under 3 hours.
It's just under. Okay, so what I show you in the class, there's a lot of discussion about lampshade fittings, types of lampshade, so that you can make the appropriate choice and choose a frame that works for the base that you are just emptying of gin. Okay, and then I show you how to make a fitted, tailored lampshade cover like this. This is one of the projects from the class, and it's beautifully lined inside and trimmed. And then I also show you how to make a gathered cover to a lampshade. So 2 very popular styles there. And then there is about 40 minutes of inspirational talk and showing you all kinds of different lampshades and what you would choose when and why you would choose them. So we are hoping to have that to you before too long. David is going on holiday at the beginning of next week, but he said he will try and get it done, but if he doesn't, he will get it done when he gets back from his holiday. He's not away for a month, he's only away for a bit less than a week, aren't you, David? Yeah. So yes. So Sarah, let us know how you did the drill. Did you have to put a little bit of tape over the place where you're going to drill so that you didn't get any little splinters or anything? We need all the details. Okay. So thank you, David.
Okay, so the next question is from Jules, and those of you who are on the Facebook group will have seen Jules talking about this, I think. And Jules says, as Philippa knows already from the online feed, I am making a copy of a jacket that I saw on holiday. Not only is it tapestry and denim, but she's also lining it. And there's a picture that goes with this. There's the jacket that she's making. I'm not sure if I think that must be the one that she saw. Could Philippa please advise what thread and needle size she would suggest for this? My needles go up to 100, but is there something better? So
could you just leave it on, David,
yeah,
a minute?
Sure.
So just while that photo's up, I don't know if you can see, but this is the garment that I was chatting about, and I've already chatted to Jules about this in the Facebook group. The buttonholes have been done horizontally, and really they should go vertically. She can have a horizontal one at the bottom on the waistband, and she could get away with a horizontal one at the top and the neck edge, but the other should go down the strip. So and that has been done for speed and not exactly cheapness, but it's less expensive to do it that way in the factory. And so we were just chatting about things like, you know, how she's actually going to do it. Now, I think your needle and thread size a little bit depends on the weight of the tapestry fabric and the denim fabric that you have got. But I would have thought a 90 should do the job. You can get jeans needles, and I would suggest that you get jeans needles. They have a very sharp point that will really penetrate the tight weave of the denim fabric. So do get jeans needles. I would go to the trouble of getting a 90 and possibly 100, because if you haven't got them locally in a shop, you're going to have to pay postage, so you might as well get both of those. But I would have thought a 90 was perhaps best. Now, don't have your stitch length too short. Have it about, I don't know, at least number 3. If you look at any jeans you've got, you know, the stitch length is quite long. Now, I didn't get it out, but there is, and if you look at our jeans class, do revisit that actually, because there's a lot of tips there about sewing denim. I use a foot that is a foot specifically designed for heavier weight fabrics and bulky seams like jean seams, and it rocks more than a conventional foot, and it'll kind of ride up over the bulk of seams more easily. And you will also see in that class that I'm using a leveler, which can either be a little plastic strip attachment that may come with your sewing machine that you can buy, or you can just fold up 2 or 3 plies of your denim fabric. You know, if you're going over a bulky seam and you get on top of the seam and then you want the other side, and you get 1 or 2 really small stitches as you come off the bulky seam, and then maybe a couple of really long stitches and then regular stitches. It's because the foot isn't balanced, and so if you put a leveler at the back of the foot after you've kind of got onto that bulky seam, it will feed off. So that kind of thing is really helpful, and you'll be able to find in that class. And regarding thread, you can get threads, and Gutterman's make quite a range of thread that is specifically designed for sewing jeans and denim. So it's that kind of goldeny ochre kind of colour, but you can get it in blue, you can get it in a marl effect that is kind of blendy with your denim fabric. So it depends on the look that you want, but I would do some research for thread for sewing jeans. Look at the Gutterman range, and you do want polyester. It's going to be more robust than your general purpose sew all polyester, and with that 90 or 100 jeans needled, it should be a nice balance. And put it in the bobbin as well.
Okay, thank you, Philippa. So we've had some more comments have come in. So Sarah Ryan, of course, has confirmed she has made 6 peg bags. So if anyone has made more than 6, do let us know. But at the moment, Sarah has the is out in the front. Linda Forey says that she had a friend who had some very nice shirts made by a bespoke company who put the buttonholes at 45 degrees. So I don't know whether you've, Philippa, I'll let Philippa comment on that. She's looking like she hasn't heard of that before. Joanne Tissington from Canada says she shoveled a foot of snow today. Yeah, you were saying earlier on it was minus 17. And then Sarah again has said in order to drill the gin bottle, she used a tile drill and holding her breath. And don't do it after you've emptied the bottle. Tape over the area. So lots of advice there. Okay, the next question is from Judith Venning. And Judith says, I should be very grateful if you could help me adjust trousers to fit. I make them usually just with elastic through the top, so I don't have to try and fit a fly and zip. Sometimes I make a pair which are just held in by a belt. But both types always feel as though they are lower at the back than at the front. I do like my trousers to fit well on my waist and not below it. How can I adjust the pattern to get a better fit? And she says, I'm sorry, I haven't got a photo. That's from Judith Venning.
So Judith, our trouser class has a wealth of alterations for all kinds of things. So body length, body width, hollow back, rounded bottom, flat bottom, round tummy. You will find exactly what you need in that. Now, we don't have a picture of you or you wearing any of the trousers, but what I imagine is that you might have a little bit of a rounded bottom rather than a flat bottom, and you can imagine that if you've got a rounded bottom, more fabric is required to go around the shape than if you've got a flat bottom, which requires less fabric, and that can be adjusted in 2 or more places actually. So you can add a little bit onto, so if this is, let me get this the right way around, if this is the crotch seam here, you can add a bit on here. You can slash through kind of the back, the middle of the back, and you can open up there, or you can extend the length of the crotch seam under the crotch, and so all of those will do the job. A little bit kind of depends where you want that extra length. So please do have a really good look at that class, because you will find that information there. There is a huge amount of information there. Also in the jeans class as well, there's tons of fitting information and alterations in the jeans class. So the trouser class and the jeans class both have a wealth of information. Don't forget, you just need to go to the index on the home page of the website, click on that, and it brings up all the list of alterations, and then you can go to the one you want, click it, and it'll take you straight to that place in the class. You don't have to search for it. It's incredibly useful. And I would just say to you as well that sometimes you haven't mentioned this, but quite a nice style for trousers for a comfortable fit is to have just the back section elasticated and then the front more conventional. Fly doesn't have to be super difficult, and again we address that in both of those classes. And you can have just a lapped fly fastening with a zipper at the front of a pair of trousers. So you might consider just an elasticated back and then having just a more tailored front to a pair of trousers. That might be another option for you. So as always, well, not as always, but the information is there for you. Just need to just do a little bit more research and you will find it.
Okay, thank you, Judith. Yeah, there's probably an hour's worth of videos. It's very hard for us to go into detail in terms of the alterations, because we're not kind of set up for that. I haven't got the sewing machine and the patterns and everything. But in the classes, we spend a long time going through that and showing you exactly how to cut the pattern and do the alterations. And I know that you've got the trouser class, so I would encourage you to have a look at that. Okay, so the next one is not a question, it is an offer. And Meg from the USA says she has got a pattern, and it is this pattern, which is the pattern that we used for, that Philippa used for the Chanel style jacket, and which between the time when we bought it, we were planning it for over a year, and when we went live, the pattern was withdrawn. So if you are looking for, and Meg has a copy and she would send it to somebody, what we're going to suggest is, if you would like to put your name into the hat to get that pattern, if you send an email to me at help@gmqt.co.uk, our usual help, by the end of next week, we will draw names out of a hat for people that have said, yes, please, could I have that pattern? And I will pass that information on to Meg, and she will hopefully send it off to you. So thank you very much indeed for that, Meg. That's a really kind offer. And I think that's the easiest. I think lots of people will probably want it. So that's the best way that I can think of that we can sort that out. Philippa's just
to say
something.
Can I just let you know that the size of the pattern is the size 14 to 22. So the pattern was originally offered in 2 size groups. This is the larger of the size groups. So the size 14 is basically UK 10, but it is the bigger size range. We haven't actually asked Meg about this because there wasn't really time before the session. We were thinking, what could we do with it? And we knew that it'll be really popular and there's going to be a real bun fight for it. So we decided that hopefully, if Meg is happy with this, is that if the names are sent to us and we draw them out. That's the fairest way we can think to do it. The only thing that I'm a little cautious of is that I don't want Meg to be out of pocket for postage, really. I mean, it is an unbelievably generous offer because the pattern is online, second-hand for large amounts of money. So Meg, just from all of us, thank you in advance for that generosity. It is incredibly kind of you. And the person who actually ends up with that pattern, you have to make it. So no pressure there. Okay.
I do. That was, yes. Okay, so thank you for that for Meg. The next question is from Suzanne, and it's about a Bernina. I wonder if I can ask about my Bernina Pro. It seems to pull thread through the springs at the back of the race into the machine. It's tricky to get out and takes a lot of patience. I wondered if you had any ideas to alleviate the issue. It never happens when using my 790 or 480.
Right, I'm going to struggle to help you a little bit on this one, Suzanne, because I don't actually have enough information to know what exactly is happening. You say that it happens with your Bernina Pro, but you don't get it with your 790 or the 780. Now, the 790 is marketed as the Bernina 790 Pro, so presumably it is a different machine to that. And so I wonder whether you are doing embroidery and not just more regular stitching, and I also wonder about the types of thread. You know, I'm just surmising here, I really don't have any idea, but if you were doing embroidery and you were using shiny kind of rayon or polyester thread, something like that, whether the slipperiness of the thread was making a difference. So in order to be able to help you with that, I do really need more information, and even with more information, it may be something that you need to chat to your dealer about, but perhaps you could get back to us on that and we could revisit it next month. And also with any of your questions, if you can send photos in, it's really helpful. It makes such a difference for us to see what is actually happening. So as much information as possible with photos is always really helpful. So thank you, and hopefully we might be able to address that a little bit more clearly and with more help if you get back to us, Suzanne.
Okay, Judith, who was asking about the trousers, was obviously watching live, and she's commented and she said, "Thank you. I like the idea of just the elastic at the back." So that's good. Hopefully, you'll be able to implement that on the next time that you're making the trousers. Okay, the next question is from Debbie Smith from Lincolnshire. We can almost shout, and you can almost hear us, Debbie. She says she wants to make a pinafore dress in corduroy. Do I need to choose fabric with some elastic in, and should I line it? If I do line it, do I cut the exact same pattern for the lining as the dress? And that's Debbie Smith in Lincolnshire.
Thank you, Debbie. So for those of you who are not British, a pinafore dress is a jumper, okay? So yeah, that's going to confuse everybody. Yeah, because a jumper is a sweater. Yeah, I know. But because I did lots of teaching in the States, I know lots of things. Do you know, one of my most favourite things to do is I subscribe to the New York Times, and I always do the spelling bee in the morning. The new spelling bee arrives at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it is my welcome to the day. And Peter often brings me tea and toast, and I'm doing the spelling bee. And having worked a lot in the States is incredibly helpful, not just on spellings, but also terminology, because there are loads of things that lots of people who've never visited the States wouldn't know. So I'm with you there. I understand a lot of your language. Now then, to go back to the question. So corduroy is generally cotton, and obviously it has a pile, and it can be a very narrow cord, so needle cord, or it can be kind of standard corduroy with a medium-sized cord through it, or whale as it's called, or it can be jumbo. So there's lots of variation in that. It will be made in other fibres as well. Do you need elastic? Does it need to have a lycra or a spandex aspect to the fabric? It depends on the style of the pinafore dress or jumper. So if it is quite straight and fitted, that might be helpful. But if it's, for example, has an A-line skirt or is a more trapeze style that flares out, then no, you don't need that elasticity, do you? So I don't know whether you've chosen a pattern yet, but I would base that decision on what the pattern is and also what you can find, what is available to you. Now then, should you line it? The back of corduroy is a bit kind of sticky, so it very much depends what you're going to wear underneath it. So if you're going to wear something like a cotton blouse or a cotton shirt that won't sort of stick in that sense to the back of the corduroy fabric, then possibly not. But if you plan to wear sweaters under it, or in the UK jumpers, just to confuse you, I had to get that in there, okay, then you might want to line it. You might want to line it for warmth, mightn't you? So, you know, an extra layer would add some warmth to it. Now then, you need to then think about how are you going to launder it. So it's possibly going to be cotton fabric, isn't it? So yeah, definitely pre-wash it. But if you line it with something like a shiny lining fabric, a rayon viscose type of lining, your washing is slightly different. So maybe you would line it, say, with a cotton lawn. Maybe you would just decide to line the bodice. So you could have a lovely print, a cotton lawn, line the bodice, and you could, I hate to say this because I don't know whether people wear them anymore, but you could wear a half slip underneath it if you found that it was a bit clingy. You know, I do have half slips in my drawer there, and they're not horrid. I've got a lovely silk one, beautiful fabric with a gorgeous scallop lace around the hem, so they don't have to be kind of old lady kind of things. So much to think about there in terms of what direction you go in it. And the other thing I'm going to say to you is that with corduroy and velvet and also some other pile fabrics, when you cut it out, it should be the rough side down, not the smooth side down, the rough side down. So when you are wearing it and you run your hand down it, it's the rough side. It will give you the richest colour. It is directional. Make sure you buy sufficient fabric to be able to cut everything out in the same direction with nap, okay? So that is also important. So now, Debbie, have you gone off the idea of making one? No, of course not. And we'd love to see it when it's done.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Debbie Dibble, and there's an image that goes with this. And Debbie has made a quilted coat, and it looks fantastic. We were both admiring it earlier on, Debbie, when we were looking at the photo. We would have liked a better photo of the front because it looks fantastic. We can see you in the mirror at the end of the corridor. What you say is it binds, and we're not quite sure what you mean, but it binds in the upper sleeve when you reach across to fasten the seat belt. Is there a way to alter this, to lessen this without going to a larger size? So Philippa, what do you make of that one?
So Debbie Dibble, you are teasing us. How can you only show us the back of this beautiful garment? We kind of can get a tiny little view of the front, and you've got a kind of chevron-y look to the front fastening there, but it looks amazing. It looks really beautiful, and also your shoes are really quite a good match to this coat, aren't they? So yeah, be more generous with your photos is what we're saying there. Now then, so it will happen. So you're reaching, so if you are a passenger, you are reaching for the seatbelt. Well, if you're in the UK, this is going to be the other way around in the States. You're reaching with one hand, and if you're the driver, you are reaching with the other hand. What I imagine is that the garment is riding up, and you are getting kind of restricted crease across the top of your arm here, your upper arm. And really, that is to do with the fact that you've got quite a low armhole. It isn't really about the fit. you actually have, I've talked about this in quite a lot of the classes, I'm just trying to think, so maybe the blouse class, the shirt class, dress classes, you actually have more movement with a higher armhole than you do with a lower armhole. I know that seems counterintuitive, but with a low armhole you can't lift very high, and with a high, more fitted armhole, you've got much more movement. And I think that your issue with this is it is a winter coat. You want to feel comfortable in it. It's not a restricted fitting style. It is quite a boxy style, and you're probably going to be wearing quite a few layers on underneath it. So I don't really see that it is something that you would particularly want to alter. I think it will be more apparent with this style of garment where it is a quilted coat, because you've simply got layers that are stiffer than, for example, a woolen coat. So if you made the same style of coat and you had a soft chunky wool, and you know, if it was unlined or just had a very lightweight actual lining, you would find that you had more movement because the fabric was more pliable. So I think that just for that little bit of kind of reaching across for your seat belt, you know, just give yourself a minute, and once you've got your seat belt fastened, just loosen it a bit and just sort of lift your bum up and just get yourself comfy before you set off on your journey. So you just need an extra minute before you set off if you're in a rush, okay? So those are my thoughts on it. Whether you feel that that is right, we would be interested to know.
Okay, hopefully that helps, Debbie. Now we've got another comment from about the sewing, not the sewing bee, sorry, the spelling bee. Deb Del Nero has said she starts her day with a spelling bee too. She's in the US, and it still bugs her that jail isn't accepted, Gaol, and it's not accepted anyway. But the next question happens to be from Deb, so well done, Deb. And we have an image that goes with this. Deb has recently purchased a beautiful Chanel fabric made of cotton, silk and lurex, and she plans to make a pair of palazzo pants. And she says, I have a very easy Vogue pattern, which you can see on the screen, that fits well, but the bottom of each leg is only 22 inches. Would you widen the legs by adding fabric to each side, or would you take each front and back pattern piece, slash it to the waist seam and spread it? I've attached photos of the pattern fabric and a couple of quick sketches. We haven't got those. I'll see if I can get them out. Also, how wide are palazzo pants generally? I'm only 5'5", but I'm pretty slim, so I'm hoping I can get away with a pretty wide pant leg. Also, these pants are pull-on with an elastic waist, and I may change that to a waistband and darts. I'd love to know if you have an opinion on that. Thanks for you both, and keep up the hard work.
Well, it has not really been known for me not to have an opinion, has it? So I have some things that I can say on that. Just to say to you, Deb, that the spelling bee, there are various levels, and the more words you get a numerical point, and it goes up from kind of good to, I don't know. Anyway, the final two are amazing and genius. I do not rest until I have got genius. That is the highest level, except for Queen Bee, when you get every word. And when I get Queen Bee, I WhatsApp Peter to let him know I've got Queen Bee. Right, okay, the palazzo pants. Now I have some beautiful, these are actually bought, but they are very nice, very wide leg pants here, and I got them out to measure the circumference around the hem, and they actually measure 30 inches. There is no it should be this or it should be that. It depends what you like. They just need to be wide and fairly flowing. They're not going to be made in a tailoring fabric with a crease down. They are a more casual trouser. Now this particular pair has pleating at the front in order to allow it to be fitted, but to get that width of fabric into the leg. And the front leg is actually slightly wider than the back leg. The back has just 2 darts and obviously a centre back seam. So what I think, looking at the pattern that you have got here, maybe we could just go back to that if that's possible, David, sorry, or maybe not, don't worry. It looks as though this pattern, they are more flared. My trousers go fairly straight down, so yes, they fitted into the waist, but once they get to the upper thigh, they don't flare out like so. They're very wide all the way down. It looks to me on this pattern as if it's more of a flared style. So because it's elasticated, I think I would possibly do I probably would do two things to it. I would slash through both the front and back leg from the waist to the hem, and I would spread, and you can absorb that extra fullness into the elasticated waist, but I wouldn't put too much extra into that. Now you're probably wanting to add about another 8 to 10 inches, so a couple 2.5 inches on each front and each back will give you that. Okay, the finer the fabric, the more you can add, because it's more kind of floaty, isn't it? But I think I might also be tempted just to add a little bit on the side seam from nothing at the waist down to the hem, and a little bit on the under leg seam, and so that you've got, yes, you've got increased width, but you also got a little bit of flare added to give you that width that you want. So that would be my take on that. I think that if you want to add a lot of width, and then you're going to try and put it on a waistband, and you're going to add darts, etc., this is not the pattern to start with. You would be better starting with a more fitted waistband type pattern to begin with, and work from that. So I'm going to suggest you have a go with the pattern you've already got, see what you think of them, and then you can maybe develop it further with subsequent pairs of trousers. Finished too soon there, David. Was it ready for me?
Deb, I'm sorry, I missed the fact that you'd sent those other couple of photos through. Deb also sent some sketches through, so I will forward those to Philippa afterwards, and she can have a look at them, and maybe if she's got any comments, she will send them to you. Okay, the next question is from Sandy Sakura Went, and those of you who are on Facebook will have seen that Sandy's been posting there as well. She says, "Hello David and Philippa, how to make adjustments to the princess seam without altering the armhole. I've successfully made several alterations that made the fit better, however I'm struggling with the bust. When I added to the bust and moved the apex down and did not adjust the armhole, I have undone the side front seam and armhole and taken in about 1/4 of an inch from above the bust dart. I've also taken in the armhole. I think it's better, but I need more." So I'm going to show you the pictures, and Philippa can make some comments.
Okay, so Sandy, well, I'll start chatting. Sandy, we always get a little bit of extra information, and because you have been such an active member for such a long time, you are an all-star contributor, and you have a little trophy by your name, so well done you. Now then, the image with the darker brownish rusty red garment is Sandy's initial toile, and you can see there that it's looking pretty nice, but she has a little gap at the centre front there, and so she needs to add a little bit more in there, and so basically Sandy has got a nice waist there. She fitted into the waist, but she's got a full cup size, so she needs to add in the full cup size, but without adding into the shoulders and the armhole. She's not wide across the shoulders, she's nicely proportioned, but she's got generous cup size. So I was looking for something similar, and I'm not sure if you can see this, David. Can you see this pattern if I hold it? That was the kind of the nearest thing that I could come up with in terms of the patterns that I've got. It's a short jacket with a similar princess seam in it, and so I have taken those two pattern pieces out of the envelope. Now I haven't actually made this garment yet, so they are not cut out, and so I haven't cut them out because I haven't really worked out what I'm doing with it yet. But if we look at this, let me put that to one side. If we look at the side front, look, this is the lower armhole here, and so the seam does go into the armhole, and then there is the shaping, the extra width of fabric at the bust point here. So what Sandy needs to do for her body type is she needs to increase that amount. So she needs to add on at the bust, so she can come from nothing at the top and taper out to add the amount that she wants. Now let's say she wants to add 2 inches across the bust. If she adds half an inch on to this piece, it'll be half an inch onto the other side piece, and she adds half an inch onto the other front piece, which I'm going to chat about in the middle. That would give her 2 inches. But what she also wanted to do was to lower the bust point. So you can see the widest point is here. So she would be adding and tapering, but she would be taking the fullest part of the bust lower down, and she would need to measure to do that. So she wouldn't be adding anything at the armhole. And if I bring this pattern piece in, which is the corresponding piece that side front sews onto, so if I hold that up, she would start at nothing here, and so she would actually end up with, instead of a line all going straight down and kind of curving in a convex manner, she would have a little bit of outward shaping at the bust point. So it wouldn't be that kind of shape, it would be that kind of shape, and that's going to give that additional fabric where it's needed across the bust point. So that is how she would go about doing that, and then that would not alter anything in the shoulder or the armhole, and indeed she would taper to nothing towards the waist and hem, so it wouldn't add anything there as well. So hopefully that is the answer to your question there, Sandy, and keep being an all-star contributor with a trophy. David's looking very carefully at something, but I don't know what. What are you looking for, David?
I'm just wondering whether we're still live or not. So something seems to be paused. I'm not quite sure what's happened, but anyway, we'll keep going. The next question is from Joan Firth, and I need to find Joan's question. I had it teed up earlier on because it's not on a piece of paper because it came in at the last minute. Okay, so Joan says, this is the first time I've sent in a question to you, but I'm going to try and make a jersey sweatshirt and trousers for my 16-year-old grandson. He will use it for a lounge suit, so I'm just wondering what fabric would be the most suitable, as I haven't sewn anything like this for a few decades. By the way, he is 6'5.5", and you said he was 16, so I wonder whether he's stopped growing yet or whether he's still going. If he's still going, then you might need to add some extra into the bottom of the legs, or it might not last him very long. I'm going to measure him at the weekend. Any advice in fabrics would be appreciated. I'm attaching the pattern just to let you see the style. So Philippa, what do you think? And I will tee up the pattern.
Well, Joe, thank you for writing in for the first time. We hope it will not be the last time that you get in touch with us. Now then, you say you... Thank you. You say you are going to make him a jersey sweatshirt and trousers. However, the pattern that you are showing us is of a onesie and all-in-one. So I'm a little unclear what you're making, but seeing as you've shown us the pattern, I think it is an all-in-one. So the first thing I'm just going to say to you is I'm just going to chat about the pattern. What I imagine is, if he's like the majority of 16-year-olds of that height, he'd probably be quite slim, probably like a beanpole really. Having a raglan sleeve like the one that you've got there, so instead of having an armhole, the sleeve seam comes here and the sleeve comes all the way up to the neck. It's a really good style for broad shoulders because you don't actually have any seam to restrict you. So if you are broad shoulders, or anybody is broad shouldered, a raglan style pattern like this one is a really good choice. Now because he is so tall, he's going to be taller than this the person that this pattern is designed for, so you will need to add extra length. Now often extra length is in the legs and the arms, so he will have a longer body, but he will probably have considerably longer legs and longer arms. grams than the pattern allows for, and there will be a point in the pattern where you will slash and spread. So yes, the measuring is quite important, and you don't want him only to be wearing it for this winter, do you? So you know, you want him to get at least a couple of years, unless he's got younger brothers or very tall younger sisters, who knows. Anyway, you don't say where you live and how cold it is, but you do want some kind of jersey fabric, and it will say on the back of the pattern what it suggests. But I'm just imagining that this is a winter garment for being cozy in the house, and it should be quite substantial. So I think you want a sweatshirt type jersey fabric that has a brushed back to it, so that it's nice and fluffy and soft, and that brushed finish to the inside will help to trap air and keep your grandson warm. By the way, we don't know what his name is. We need to know his name. So I would look for a sweatshirt type, not t-shirt type. You want something thicker and more substantial. If you buy polycotton, which will be cheaper, it will pill. Those little bobbles will work onto the right side of the fabric, and the only way you can get rid of them is with a bobble buster. I did quite a lot of designing of sportswear when I was a lingerie designer, because our factory made sportswear as well, and we used to do a lot of stuff for Nike and Lecoq Sportif, and always the 100% cotton fabric was superior to the actual polycotton, or even you might find acrylic as well, which will be the same. So I would look for 100% cotton, but it is going to be a little bit more expensive. Now then, looking at the pattern as well, the actual elastication around the cuffs and the ankle is done by folding and creating a casing, which can be a little bit bulky, particularly if you do buy quite a substantial sweatshirt type fabric, but you can buy ribs, and you can buy ribbing that you can join, but you can buy ribs that are cut and made to size for both hems and cuffs. So that might be worth looking into, because they are just less bulky and a little bit more comfortable. So just bear that in mind as an option. They are readily available online, and they do sell them in our local boys as well. So so I would just have a little think about that. So can I think of anything else you need to know on that? You can overlock it if you've got an overlocker. If you haven't got an overlock, you can sew it perfectly well on your regular sewing machine. Have a look at our knitted fabrics class for more help on sewing stretch fabrics, and it can get a really good stretch thread called Maraflex, which has a really nice elasticity to it. That would be a really good choice for this. And if you are going to use those jersey fabrics, of course you are, you need a ballpoint needle which has a slightly rounded tip, and it won't pierce the knit, and it will not damage the fabric as you are sewing. So lots to think about there. We want to see the picture, and we want to know your grandson's name. Okay, so David, is that about it for questions? So I just want to show off my new cutting mat, so which arrived today. And it is made by Elan. It is the same make as the pink one that you've seen in so many of the classes. When I bought the original one, it was the largest one I could find. A0 is the size, but they only had the pink one available, and it does bother me sometimes in terms of what we are making, the fabric that we are using, the backdrop. It's always this incredible pink big space on the table, and so I just happened to think, it was only the day before yesterday, maybe there is another colourway available now. And so yes, there is. So I've got this more neutral coloured mat. It's actually dark grey on the other side, a bit too dark. We've got to be careful not to go too light and too dark in terms of light levels when we are filming. But David, you hadn't noticed, had you? What do you think, Peter? So now I've got four options. I've got pink and purple on the old one, and I've got the buff colour and dark grey on the new one. So watch this space. I'm going to be playing with the colours. Right, so are we ready to announce winners?
Yes, the two lucky winners are Jean Garoud and Rosemary Soper.
Lovely. So I hope you two ladies are going to be delighted when you hear about your prize. And if you don't have the peg bag class in your library, in addition to your kit, you will be getting that class as well. Just what you wanted for your pre-Christmas gift. So we will be back just before Christmas in about 4 weeks time for our Christmas show. We will have to get some decorations out to make it all look a bit festive. As I said on Tuesday's Quilters Question Time Live, there will be a sparkling wine of some sort, so do get festive with us and be prepared for that. I know some of you do look forward to this as an opportunity to spend time with us and also just enjoy a glass of wine or a beer or something. Make it a little bit special and treat yourself next time. We hope you'll have lots of lovely questions for us. We will have a couple of very nice prizes for 2 lucky winners next time we meet. So from Peter,
bye-bye.
And from David.
Bye-bye.
And just before we go, David, just remind them about the rewatching.
Right, yes. So we, some people let us know that when they were watching the replays, that you were getting a lot of adverts during the replays of these live sessions. And so what we tried last week, and it seemed to work quite well with the quilting live, was we've downloaded the video from YouTube and posted it in your libraries. So I will be doing that going forward. So the replays, it takes a little while for me to get that done. Hopefully within 24 hours, the replays should be in your libraries. Should you not be able to watch them live, and you'll be able to watch advert free.
Yeah, so that'll make a big difference to you. So when you are watching any of the replays, go to the ones in your library and they won't have the adverts. We want you to have the best experience with everything that we can offer you. So do that. So from all of us here, it's time to pack up for a few more weeks, but we look forward to seeing you towards the end of December. Have a cozy time and keep warm, everybody, especially Joanne Tissington. Keep yourself cozy.